everybody, welcome to Red Wings Rant, where tirades and impassioned pleas for your Detroit Red Wings finally have a home. We've been gone for a week, and the sweetheart himself, he's back. We told you guys a week ago that you want to show up so we can get your questions for Mr. Max Bultman, of course, from The Athletic. He gives us all of our wonderful news through Twitter, just constant updates. And of course I said that, and I just previewed, like, before we started, I was like, all right guys, you guys are all going to be on the screen. And then of course, what did I do? Screwed that up. But anyway, there's Max. There's that beautiful mug. Max, welcome to Red Wings Rant. I thought a week ago, I was actually thinking to myself, thank God we can get that week behind us. We'll have an opportunity to land a couple of, maybe not easy wins, but just get some other games in front of us so I can have some positive thoughts to discuss with Mr. Bultman. And, well, I don't know. I guess we sent you some notes, so you might be able to feel it's not anger. It's certainly not like any deep-rooted concern with the Yzerplan, and all of our listeners are probably aware of usually the take that we hold on to near and dear to our hearts, Max, is just you got to be patient. And we always loved trying to compete with Steve Yzerman's notation from earlier, or I should say late in the spring, where he said he's the most patient guy in the world. Well, no. Damn you, Steve, because we consider ourselves the most patient fans in the world. But still, it's been rough. A lot of heavy losses to where we kind of thought we were past that. And I don't know. We'll jump
Max,
in here.
Max, are these the end times, or should we be a little more pragmatic here?
Well, it's funny. You talked about kind of what is that feeling? You're not mad, whatever. What I think it is that's the feeling of reality setting in, right? And you said it just then. Thought you were past it, right? And I'm sure that's I'm sure you're not the only ones feeling that way, right? I think if I look at my Twitter mentions, it's been interesting. I've talked about it with a couple of friends. Like, I don't think there was that many people thinking this was a playoff team before the year. And I think everyone kind of understood that. But then you live it day to day and you remember the frustrations and a couple of the losses recently, specifically the home loss to New Jersey and then this most recent road loss at Buffalo, have been just of the variety that's like, oh, it's not even like this. You can't even call that just a regular loss, right? I mean, the Buffalo one especially, I think, spiraled out of control. So that, I'm sure, is the feeling of familiar losses that you hoped to be behind you, right? And
right.
I got news. It's not going to be the last one.
and like, we try to come at it, right? Like, you want to be pragmatic. You want to tell yourself, like, okay, Vrana not in the lineup, right. Tyler Bertuzzi injured. How are you going to build up like good line chemistry from top to bottom when you have guys that are maybe moving outside of the role that Lalone had planned for the team? And of course there's going to be issues. You just kind of hoped it wasn't going to be issues of 5 goal deficits. I guess, yeah, to Mike's point, like, a little tongue in cheek there, the doom and gloom, we kind of lean into the to exaggerate here, because of course we're almost like playing, like role playing as like the Twitter individual who does get a little too upset at some of these games. But it was something where I've heard some people say, like, it's Boston, right? And again, like Buffalo has had a great start. New Jersey having an amazing start, even when you look at the 5-on-5 analytics. Those teams are having great starts, but that doesn't mean that you get trounced. That doesn't mean that you you hand over your lunch money and get hung up on the chain link fence during recess. So that's kind of, I don't know. Like you said, it might not be too far past us what we saw in like late spring, but
yeah, I think it's growing pains is ultimately the thing.
Yeah.
It was never going to be overnight. This team goes from what it was a year ago to this, 99-point team that, when they lose, it's really close and they never have, it's going to be I think, I said I got news, it's not going to be the last one. It's not going to be even close to the last one. But I that being said, I don't think it's the same team as last year. I just think these steps are maybe a little more gradual than it's tempting to believe sometimes, especially when you're in the thick of it.
Right.
And Red Wings fans have been so patient. I give them so much credit. Like, you guys talked about, you're the most patient people in the world. And Red Wings fans, like I say this on the radio all the time whenever people ask me, because whenever I do a hit, the host always says, like, how is the fan base like handling this? It's been so long. And I say, like, honestly, like, shockingly well. And I think a lot of that is because of the trust Red Wings fans have in Steve Yzerman. But other than that, I think it's just a smart fan base that does understand, that it's not going to be gradual. But that being said, in the moment, it's really hard to be kind of disciplined to that belief. Right?
Yeah.
I think everyone's feeling that right now.
Yeah, not quite like Detroit Lion fan patient, but man, you're really catching up to him.
And hopefully it never needs to be, right?
Right.
I hope look, I'm a Lions fan. I hope no other fan base has to feel what
other humans should not be tortured like this. This is
No,
this is like biblical slavery. It's like that bad.
It's brutal.
We have a couple comments in the chat, and this is I do want to make sure we hit some comments, even though we had some stuff set up, because I do think this is kind of a rare opportunity, because I know, Max, you get opportunities to join all the Red Wings podcasts, but we're one of the few that tries to run every episode live. So I wanted to tell everybody, hey, let us know what you're thinking. I'm not.
Can I also just say, you guys, I've forgotten how high your production value is on that intro. Like, that is an impressive reel to start things off. I really like it.
I've been mad at myself because it's still got. There's a lot of players.
I'm pretty sure I saw Blash's glasses in there too.
Yeah. Yeah, Blash's still in there. We got to get Derek in there. That's gonna be a face to at least like let's wake everybody up, right? I mean, I love Derek, but he calls out himself. That's a face to wake up to in the morning. That's too mean. Anyway, moving on. I do have some call outs here. First of all, just guys, I know normally we run through like almost every comment here. Just want to say what's up to Chewy, who's aboard, Jared, who's aboard, Jim Johnson, who's aboard. I wanted to throw out, because there's a couple people that are mentioning, and I'm just seeing this. Jim, you're the first comment I'm seeing that mentioned Seider and Raymond. And Jim throws out there, I was hoping Seider, Raymond, Zadina, and Kopp would have better starts. And that's clear. You know what? Jim is a very good listener, a very good Red Wings fan, because he does, just so you know, comes at us with very good opinions, and he's always, I'm going to overuse the word pragmatic. So this is my second time somebody wants to take a shot now that I've said that. But I like how Jim put this, is just to say better starts, because we have seen people overreacting already and labeling the start for Seider and Raymond as, I would say this is way too early, but a sophomore slump. Max, any thoughts on what you're seeing from Mo Seider in regards to like a difference you're seeing from what we saw last year to this year? Because I will say, in my opinion, what I see right now is flashes of the Mo Seider from last year, but I'm actually noticing eyeball test wise, like there's like choice to when the Mo Seider from last year shows up, and I don't want to use the word timid, but it just seems like we had a guy who was so aggressive last year. He's not necessarily timid, but when you compare it to Seider from last year, it looks like there's a lot processing in his brain, and he's avoiding the aggressive decision. And maybe that's interesting. Him getting smarter.
I have felt the exact opposite. I have felt like he's trying to do everything. Like you go back to the turnover on the goal the other night, right? And it's some of these plays, and it's not the first time it's happened where he's got the puck in his D zone, and he either wants to break it out himself or make the perfect stretch pass on an exit. When I think, to me, it looks like he's trying to be this like top 10 defenseman in the world that I assume everyone on this podcast believes he can be, right? I
absolutely do.
Absolutely.
And it looks like he's trying to be it, maybe every time out there, to me. And I try not to psychoanalyze players too much because it's impossible, right? But that's just how I've felt watching a few of the games so far this year. Is it looks like he's trying to do it all, and I think it's caused some problems so far. And I think you could say a little bit of the same with Raymond, though I think the last couple of games he's really looked to me more dangerous, more like himself. Kopp, it's tough. That one, you come off the core muscle surgery. He misses the whole preseason. Like, you think about it, I think really only these last 2 or 3 games have I even really been thinking about him, because the rest is just kind of getting up to where everybody else was, right up to speed. But
Right.
I didn't mind his Minnesota game. I thought that he played. I thought he was pretty impactful in that game. Just from where I sat, I don't think anyone had a good game against Buffalo. So, there's that. But I'd still give a little more time on those. Zadina is the complicated one, the X factor, because I think, like everyone, I think you see these flashes from him where it looks like he should be, on the score sheet, and he's just not. He's not on the score sheet, and I don't know what to make of that. I mean, I generally believe that if you're involved in the play as much as he has been at times, it's just going to happen for you. But I think I'm on year 3 of saying it. So I don't know what that means, and I don't,
Right.
I'm not saying that to be me. Like, I think a lot of Filip Zadina, I think he's a really hardworking guy. I think he's a really talented guy. Every year I feel like I pick him to break out because I just believe in him. But I also, know I have to look at myself and say, like, you've been saying this for a while and it hasn't happened. And maybe I just don't know I don't know what the answer is there. I think that's basically what I'm left with, right?
No, what's funny, Max, is we kind of been harping on using the word patient, and it's like, since the start of this season, we've already seen like great starts from Perron and Husso and Kubi and Maatta and Sundqvist, and it's like, yeah, but can we have every single player firing on all cylinders like to start the season? Like,
not.
Yeah, right. It's it's going to be ebbs and flows for everybody over the course. And yeah, I think you're right on the money with basically that take there.
Well, with your point, Mike, I sent out this message. I was listening to Don Granato today. I think he was on. This must have been the Monday version of the Athletic podcast. But he made reference, and I just, I guess it's relevant because we just got destroyed by him. But but I'm listening to really just his takes on coaching. And he was kind of talking about, like, when he looks at a guy who maybe hasn't fired on all cylinders from the start of the season. And this is kind of where I wanted to carry the conversation. But he kind of labeled, like, the mid-season point. And, right, we're 9 games in. I think we're 10% of the way through the season. I think a good marker is those 10 games for us to start to, like, kind of see trends. Not necessarily we make decisions, but we see trends. But, Max, I wanted your thoughts. Don said 20 to 40 games in. That's when we can start to make labels. Now, that to Don, too, was like, from a coaching perspective, he's like, okay, I'm not doing something right if I have a high-skilled guy.
Yeah.
I've got to start moving lines around. But from the viewer perspective, too, I think it's really important that a guy who's that deep in the system is having that sort of thought process where it comes to Raymond and Sider being in their second seasons. Like you mentioned, Max, Cop getting a late start compared to everybody else. But even with Zadina, I think there's still the mix-up, and we touched on it like lightly. It was the line chemistry. But I guess where I wanted to take it with you, Max, was that I know you're going to have certain points in the season where you want to take a look back when you're as a writer. When do you think you are going to, and maybe you'll tell us right now, you have a 10-game recap article coming out.
It's interesting. Certainly as a writer, you have to, and I'm sure it frustrates the hell out of coaches, and it probably is unfair by us, but we have to do it more often than they do because we have a readership that wants to know that often, right? And
right.
So for me, like, I know some teams divide up the season into 5-game segments with the idea that, every 5 games, if you get 6 points, at the end of the year, you're a 97-point team. You should be in the playoffs, right? That's just how the math works out. And, the Red Wings have to win. No, they already can't be for this segment, actually. But they banked a couple points in the first segment. So they'll be on pace if they win on Thursday, right? That's one way of looking at things. If you ask me, like, honestly, when would I make the first kind of segmented look like that? It's probably U.S. Thanksgiving, and then probably every month from there on, I would treat as like a, its own entity. But I probably do write something every 5 to 8 games that kind of is bigger picture looking at trends, because I think, I think a couple week sample is it basically equates to a game in an NFL season, right? And
Yeah.
people certainly make enough out of one NFL game, right? So
Yep.
I think kind of those 5-game, 2-week stretches are digestible samples, but I big picture, it's probably U.S. Thanksgiving and then every month after that. So Christmas and late January, late February, which usually coincides with the trade deadline, and beyond that, you already know whatever. You already know. I mean,
Yeah. I
know there's that arbitrary kind of time signature where you got to kind of reassess, like you're saying, every 5 games, 6 points, something like that.
Yeah, 6 games, 6 points every 5 games. That should get you into the playoffs.
Yeah, it's like, well, for us, I know that we're already going to be like grading this whole team on a curve because of some of our top 6 guys who went down. Yeah. And it's almost like you want to start grading this team when that third defensive pairing kind of gets figured out a little bit, since they've been kind of having a tougher time.
Right.
I don't know how in touch I know you've had to focus so much on the main level, but like Edvinsson, do you feel like we're going to be waiting a while for him to come up, or based on this third pairing so far?
I just don't think that they sent him down thinking, we'll call him up in 3 weeks.
I don't think he's a cure-all, but at least,
I think you'll see a lot of him this year, but not like 60 games, a lot of him, right? Like I think he's off to a good start down there. I don't think he was that far off, but at the time they decided to send him down, I think you're looking at that as like a month to 2 months, probably minimum, right? Like he's going to get his feel down there. And if he's really, really good at that point and they have a need, they can call him up. But Jake Wallman's going to come back in like a week and he's going to have a crack at that. Mark Pesce will come back, I think, sometime in the new year. We'll see how that works out. I still think you're going to see him because I just think he's that good. I think he's going to play his way up. But would it like floor me if you don't see him for more than, whatever it is, 9 games? No, that wouldn't floor me. But I don't think they'll hold him down because of that. I just think once they decided to send him down, it tells you that they think he's got enough to work on down there that it wasn't going to be like and we'll call him up November 3rd kind of thing.
Right. No, yeah, because they probably want to see him like in all the special team scenarios.
100%. Kind of thing. They want him to have real minutes. They want him to have a role. Like he's on power play 1 down there, I believe. And they value all that stuff for sure.
Yeah, I like what you said earlier today too. I'm going to call back to the live that you did with Corey Pronman. But you said if it was going to be 6 points in 6 games was going to get him the call up, then he would have never gotten called down. Like it was like it's like a completely different way to look at it. Now, I wanted to give an opportunity too. I hope you guys have all gotten a chance because we called it out on our Twitter. But the Olli Maatta, I don't know. I was going to say the Olli Maatta effect, but we just talked about. We don't want to jump the gun on being too excited too early. But I mean, this is. I think with all the signings, is it fair? Like this may have come under the radars, like one of the most, probably one of the most important signings in the offseason.
Under the radar for sure. Radar. I mean, it's a 1-year deal, right? So that limits how important it can be as we speak this moment. But like in terms of impact on the season, I think he's been very impactful, and I think that goes back to what he does well being exactly what they needed to do better, right? Like he's a really good defender, which happens because he's good literally defending, but also because when he gets the puck, he's able to skate it out of trouble. He's able to pass it out of trouble. He's able to execute, coach wants this, he does it. Coach wants this, he does it. And I talked about it in the story that I wrote the other day. Like a lot of his points early in the season, he had a great goal the other night in Buffalo, but a lot of his points were just making the right, very simple play in the neutral zone. And it's funny, like there's certain websites that you can go to and just kind of watch a guy's points. And if you do that for Olli Maatta, he's not in the highlight for like half of those clips because the play happened like 6 seconds ago in the neutral zone. But that doesn't diminish it to me because you're not always going to get those points. But he did something that led to offense. He made this like subtle chip pass in the neutral zone, or he just banked the puck, to somebody behind his back on pressure, and then they skated in and set up a pass, right? Like these things are no less important in my opinion. I think it's a really good way to think about what he does because they're not the highlight reel plays, and yet they are leading to offense for the Red Wings. And more importantly for them, you look at that graphic you guys have up on the screen, like 83rd percentile even strength defending. That was the thing, right? That's all Steve Yzerman wanted to talk about this offseason was has to get better defensively. and you see early on 93rd percentile penalty killing. Like, these are things that he's definitely helping with so far.
Yeah, and from I guess me defining like this being an important signing goes along those lines of like this fits the role, this fits like the identity that at least Steve Yzerman spoke to. Now, we look at an 8-3 game. Is the team fully embracing that identity that we hoped for? Not necessarily, but it is one of those things too, where like I absolutely need to call out some positives because this is a downer right now. We're calling out a lot of negatives. Yeah, exactly. So there's got to be something happy to talk about. I mean, it's another one of those things too. Like I might even want to come back to our last subject because I was wondering too, Max, because our opinion is. We've totally rewritten the Red Wings' definition of depth because before the season started, we were so excited because we had so much trouble putting a lineup together, and we were like, "Oh, this is fantastic! This is so. Where am I going to fit in Berggren? Like, and we thought a shoe-in too was Edvinsson.
Were you guys among the people saying that they had to trade Pius Suter because of how deep they were?
Oh, we never made that claim.
I got a few of those in my mentions that aged rather like milk in the first like 5 days of the season.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning to anybody that has that opinion. If you go ahead, go to Evolving Hockey, sort all of our players by expected goals for percentage. You'll find a similar name.
But also just like
everybody on the injured list.
Exactly. Like
you need all these guys.
He's not in the lineup. You got to trade him. Well, he's going to be in the lineup because 2 people are going to get hurt in the next week. I promise.
Have you not seen this team the past 3 years? We're usually healthy for game 1. That's about it.
I did see a call out here. I might just I can't find the comment, but I did think it was interesting. I wanted to get everybody's take. Now, Mike and I have given our take on this. I did find it. This is from Jared. Jared's a good friend of the show. I'm just going to say, Max, to sort of lead our opinion, we might not be too far away from what Jared's saying here. But Zadina, here's what Jared said for all the podcast listeners. Zadina has until the trade deadline to get a fair shake under the loan, but I don't see him staying. Now, a part of this is just, I think it's where I want us to tackle this is just like, do you see the possibility of there being a market for this, or does this feel like if he was to be moved? And I know I'm kind of jumping the gun. I'm like, I wanted to ask you if you actually thought he was going to be moved, but to that end, I struggle with what we would get back if it's not just going to be somebody else's project that doesn't seem to quite be working out.
That's typically how kind of change of scenery deals play out.
Right.
You know, like I said on the last question, like it's hard for me to believe that nobody would want to take the flyer because there is still plenty to get excited about. You know what I mean? But other people have also seen the stat sheets too and know it hasn't happened and, you know, are going to want to know why. And so I don't know. You know, I the one thing I'd push back on in the wording here is like to get a fair shake is like, I don't think Lalone at the trade deadline is like, now I'm going to stop treating you fairly. Like now I'm going to stop giving you opportunities, right? Like, I don't think that's going to be the case. But come trade deadline, like, do I think he would be off limits? No, I don't think he would have been off limits last year, right? It's just like that they gave him a 3-year deal, which should tell you that they are willing to, like, you know, see how this goes. And they didn't have to do that. They could have done a 1 year, they could have done a 2 year, whatever they wanted to do. They did not have to do a 3-year deal. So I think that tells you there's some belief internally. But I would not say that there's no chance of this. Like, you know, I think, you know, if there's the right change of scenery opportunity, then it's something worth looking into. And sometimes that's good for the player and sometimes that's good for the team. But, you know, you look at like Sam Bennett, he how long did that saga go on in Calgary where it was like, are they going to trade him and blah, blah, blah. And finally they trade him and he takes off in his next place. And that can happen. And it wouldn't surprise me if it happened with Filip Zadina. But I don't think there's like a timeline where he stops getting opportunities. I don't think that's going to be the way it goes. Certainly not after giving him a 3-year deal. Like he's a part of the team. And so I don't really know how to wrap that thought up, I guess, but just
I think I'd take it from you too. And I it's one of the things we've talked about with that contract. But if you lose patience with, what is it, 1.8, on the salary cap, you're watching the wrong sport. That's a totally manageable cap hit, and that's something where you've just created 3 years of patience because you don't have to worry about it eating up somebody's roster spot.
And it comes back to expectations, right? Like no one would have this reaction to him if he were a 4th round pick. It would be like, oh, we'll see what happens. Right. He's 22 years old. But people want the payoff because they got that excited for him. And hand up, I certainly contributed to that, right?
Absolutely.
And I'm sure you guys did too, right? It's like we write and we say how good these guys are, and sometimes, we haven't seen
the expected goals is through the roof. I haven't seen them, but they're expected at some point. But yeah, I mean, I think it coming in third here, I'm going to be just doing piggyback. But yeah, I mean, Yzerman committed 3 years to this guy. So I would be shocked if he was somebody moved at the deadline because it sounds like this is somebody.
Well, it wouldn't shock me if they move him, but it would shock me if they're like, we're done with you. You know what I mean?
Like dumping him.
Yeah,
dumping
exactly.
Him. Maybe
exactly.
that's a better word.
Yeah, right.
Dumping would be a shock. It seems like they're committed to a 22-year-old guy with the skill. So
I feel like
he works hard. Yeah.
I feel like Buffalo just gave us a good glimpse of a guy who was taken in the first round that you could show some patience with, and all of a sudden he looks like a super duper star.
Yeah, totally. The different players for sure, but I get exactly what you mean by
that. Yeah. Now we're wrapping up here, Max. We only have you till 8:00. I had a couple other topics I wanted to kind of touch on that were more like hockey, like the philosophy in hockey, things like luxury player I wanted to touch on, and comparison.
Could I throw one out there, Matt?
Absolutely.
Max, you get a lot more access than we do, like talking to current players. So I had a question for you. One thing that really frustrates me, like comparing the NHL and the NBA, I'm a big NBA fan, and I feel like they do such a great job, like marketing the players, the league, the stars. So even like the NHL opening night was broadcast. It was like announced via a tweet. Nobody knew that the opening night was even happening overseas. It was a nightmare. So I guess what I wanted to ask you is...
Oh, the European game. Sorry.
Yeah, the European game. That counted in the record. Yeah. It counted.
Yeah.
When you're meeting these guys, if you had an idea to kind of like... Maybe I'll try and kind of push this towards like the most marketable player, like personality-wise. Who would you say that would be like for the current team?
Most marketable.
And I don't want to lead the witness, and I'm going to try and lead you away because I love Larkin, but he's so professional. It's harder to market him because he's so like serious. You know what I mean? It's almost like kind of more of a personality.
Well, and that is one thing is like in my job, it's not like I'm going for beers with these guys, right? Like I am still interacting with them.
Yeah, you're at work.
Context, right? So it's I still see. I would say like they're more professional sides. It's interesting because like I think everyone has seen these glimpses of how big a personality Moritz Seider has, and I thought that was I think the Red Wings social team, their video team, does a really good job with stuff like that and bringing that kind of stuff out because that's not a side of Moritz Seider that I see very often, right? But you see how, and I've heard plenty about it when I reported on his year in Rogla. And I think you saw it in those like Mojo show videos, like when they went to wherever it was, Seattle, I think it was, right. And you see that, and that's a huge personality. Right. So that would, he'd be up there. I think Lucas Raymond's a really funny guy. It seems like a, fun loving kid and all that. And, but also like these guys are so young, right? Like it's, they're still kind of becoming who they're going to be. And so I don't know. I think Seider's personality is very marketable. That's probably the easy answer.
Go to his Instagram right now because he's selling real estate. It's his new Instagram story is him doing a German real estate company. So I couldn't wait to jump on that, Mike, when you threw that out there because somebody is marketing Moritz Seider.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Well, I want to jump in, Max. You have a hard stop at 8. I want to let you go. I want to
go for 5 more if you want to get one of those 2.
Oh, yeah. All right, let's do it.
Thanks, Max.
Now, I'm going to say this. I was talking to, we did like 2 messages back and forth. But Jeff Merrick, I was listening to his podcast and I wanted to just get his thoughts because he kept talking about these luxury players, this idea of a luxury player. And he started this conversation because Phil Kessel, was he the guy that you revolve your whole franchise around? No, we knew that he was traveling around, and then he sort of half described a luxury player as somebody like Phil Kessel comes onto your team, and now at this point in his career for the Golden Knights, he's a luxury to have. Another guy that he brought up was Brooks Orpik, who actually called himself out and said, "You don't sign Brooks Orpik and make me your star. You sign me and this guy year after year. Selke votes, up in the I will say, without knowing for sure, definitely the top 10 year after year after year, like right in the middle of that career." And he called himself out. He's like, "You're not going to bring me in and I'm going to be the superstar on your team. I'm that last final piece." And Mike, your point bringing up basketball, I mean, I think the easiest one around Detroit is maybe to call out like like Rasheed Wallace was definitely one for the 2004 Detroit Pistons. And we talk about Brad Stewart coming to the Wings too. But anyway, I was wondering, with our roster, and you do have to keep a relationship with these players, despite you saying you don't want to drink with them. So I understand if you don't want to get too deep into this. But how many of these guys do you think we're actually carrying that are in the right role? Because it's something like I've listened to Elliot Friedman since the season started. He's just waiting for Perron to get traded back to the Blues, as long as they stay in playoff contention. That's what he said. He said every episode of 32 Thoughts. He's just waiting. I think St. Louis is going to do their darndest right now. What are they on a 5-game losing streak? But anyway, how many of these guys do you think we have in like a wrong space right now?
Well, I think that's a different question than the luxury player thing. To me, the luxury player thing is like a guy that you go get who, you don't, like you said,
like the Maple Leafs fourth line.
No,
usually.
I almost would think of it kind of like I'm trying to think of like a good example from. Really, I think of it more like the NFL, like the Rams going and getting some of the guys that, like Von Miller was a luxury player for the Rams, right? Because they didn't really need that, but they could get him and they got better, so they just did it, right?
Right.
Maybe you could call Christian McCaffrey to the 49ers this year, something like that. I don't think the Red Wings are in a position to have luxury players because they don't have any luxury, right?
We have luxury players that are going to be taken from us and moved into the proper spot.
Is like a great player. Christian McCaffrey is like a great player. I don't think like they're luxury. That's kind of what I mean. Is like, okay, that's like, it's like a luxury addition, I guess. That's probably a better way to put it, like a luxury addition. But like a luxury player, I don't know.
Like, do we actually have, like, is Tyler Bertuzzi the last piece that the Toronto Maple Leafs need? Not that anybody wants to hear me trading Tyler Bertuzzi to the Maple Leafs, but I feel like that's the best way for me to like sum it up. Is that like they find him in a middle six role
for them, or is he something that they need?
It's definitely a combo of both,
because they haven't won a playoff series. Like, and how can anyone say like they have the luxury to do like you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I think like it would come from from that perspective of like they know who they are with Austin, like they know who that top six should be. So when you bring in a Tyler Bertuzzi, this isn't now they're a playoff contender. Now they're a Stanley Cup contender. They should be Stanley Cup contenders. They screw it up every year. But once they have that Tyler Bertuzzi player, so this is my fear, is that we have some luxury guys, future luxury guys for other teams that are in some prominent roles.
I don't know. That's a tough one. I just think it's fair to say that the Red Wings, as currently constructed, have a few guys slotted higher in a lineup than they would be on a contender. I don't think that's any secret. That's just team building, right? But like in terms of like, I think there are players on the team still who, you mentioned David Perron, like maybe he's a luxury addition for like St. Louis, but on Detroit, he's a key cog. And like, I don't think, he's been on a really winning team and a Stanley Cup team. And I don't think he was just a luxury piece on those teams. I think he was a pretty core guy. So like, to me, like a luxury player would be like a Mike Hoffman, right? Or maybe you could say, if you want like a Red Wing example, like Andreas Athanasiou, I think, would be an example of that from recent years, right? And I don't say that with any disrespect. I just think that's, he's going to add some scoring for you, add some sizzle, some speed. Probably not like a core part of, your championship core, right? Could there be guys like that? Yeah, insofar as that there are guys who aren't in like the championship core level who are maybe, central pieces in Detroit, but it'd be hard for me to like pick out a guy and say like that's a luxury piece, because I don't know that if they have any luxury about them. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think too, like, I want to let you go because we hit your 5 minutes, but it's definitely like, when do we, like, I think it's just like we're ready to go game by game and get pissed off when we lose. When we do see ourselves picking up some of those, maybe we need to work on the definition of luxury player. I need a better word. But
because Holik doesn't strike me as a luxury guy either, right? Like I wouldn't say he's a luxury player. I don't know.
Yeah, there's probably some mud.
I don't know.
There's some mud we need to clear off the windshield there so that we have a clearer picture of what I'm trying to say.
Right.
I mean, the closest I could think of was when we were stacked and we like pulled in Robitaille.
Totally. That's a perfect example. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Damn it. All right, fine. No.
A late career guy, like Robitaille's a Hall of Famer. He's not just a luxury player. But at that point in his career, it's like, sure, add Luc Robitaille, right?
Absolutely. No, that makes sense. All right. So Max, you are amazing. Thank you so much for coming back a week after we've initially set up the date. So really appreciate it. And of course, Max, you're running through The Athletic, as everybody knows. You have the Friday prospect episode for the Athletic Hockey Podcast, which is amazing. Last question. Who's your favorite person to host a podcast with, Prashanth or Corey Proman? I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah, they're both awesome.
I wouldn't do that to you.
So much smarter than me. I've been super lucky to have shows with both of them.
But yeah, you guys know what to do. Following Max on Twitter. Max, what is that handle real quick?
At @M_Bultman, BULTMAN.
All right. I mean, as if there's anybody following us and not following you, but I think everybody's kind of like, you sync them all up at the same time. But anyway, Max, I appreciate you syncing up with us. You're fantastic, and we hope we can have you on again. I hope this was fun for you.
My pleasure, guys. I really appreciate it, and have a great rest of the show.
Yeah, thanks, Max. Have a good one.
Take care.
Bye.
All righty. Mr. Max Bultman from The Athletic. So we're going to keep carrying on. We have some more topics. I think I want to iron out what the hell I mean by a luxury player. Because
you got to throw the ad out there before you do that.
We do. That's what I'm doing. Right. So we're going to step away for a second.
Do a little business.
We'll be right back for you guys. Just hang tight, and thanks for watching so far. Hockey fans, it's finally time to hit the ice again, and thanks to DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you're in for a season of a lifetime. New customers can bet $5 on any team and get $200 in free bets if they win. Guys, we got Wings and Canadians coming up. You want to get that $200 in free bets? If that wasn't enough excitement, you could turn small bets into bigger payouts with same-game parlays. Combine multiple bets like which team will win, how many goals will be scored, and more for your shot at an even bigger payout. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. You can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet $5 on any NHL team to win their game and get $200 in free bets if they do. That's code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. So, we're back. I think what I was trying to get Max to say with the...
What did you want him to admit, Matt?
That Tyler Bertuzzi, having Tyler Bertuzzi on the first line is a team that's not ready to contend for the playoffs. Not just Tyler Bertuzzi. I'm sorry. It's like if we could get Tyler down to the second line. If there's one, like imagine there is like the space for the elites of all elites on this team. They're going to be left wing, center, right wing on the first line. So one of the guys we have running on our first line is getting moved down. So I wanted to take the conversation. It wasn't necessarily getting rid of Tyler Bertuzzi, but it was going to be about once those guys can move down, then we're ready. Like right now, it feels like I don't know if it's about adding more guys in the middle six, figuring out what we're doing on the fourth line.
I think that's the sentence that kind of helps. I don't know about the luxury thing. I would say the closest thing you have right now is Fabry, who we forget is even employed by this roster, but he's going to be playing a key role. But yeah, I think what Max alluded to was, it's guys who are cogs, who could be like maybe a line above where they could be, or maybe they'd be more of a depth player on a better, more seasoned team. And like you're trying to, I know you're trying to articulate that, but yeah, if we could get to a point where Bertuzzi's on a second line, I don't think a team that, is a strong playoff team winning, rounds, I don't think you are necessarily held back by having Bertuzzi on your first line, but that would mean I think the second line would maybe be a little bit better. But yeah. I think you could still make Bertuzzi work on the first line.
It was funny too. Like I've been listening to more hockey podcasts than I ever have in my entire life. I have been listening to every 32 Thoughts. I have the Jeff Merrick podcast queued up every day. Yeah. So it's a lot of Canadian perspective, which isn't always the best. Only not for any Canadians listening. What are
you saying about Canada, Matt?
It's a lot of
war on Canada.
It's a lot of Toronto Maple Leafs. Lots and lots of Toronto Maple Leafs talk. Right now too, it makes sense. I did want to call out Jared throughout there. Kubi is the luxury player. I was thinking we had 0 luxury players, but Jared makes so much sense with this at like $2.5 million, and we've got a guy that's got 10 points, 11 points in 9 games. But what I wanted, the point was that we don't have luxury players. Like we're not in the space to have luxury players because we don't have a set core that is like carrying us right now, right? So that was what I was kind of saying. Like, yes, we have the luxury player, but it would be a luxury for another team to have them. And that's where I was kind of leading in the conversation with like this Elliot Friedman call out of like, he's just waiting for David Perron to get traded back to the Blues. Does David Perron get traded back to the Blues and he's in the top 6? Maybe he's in the middle 6, maybe on the third line. Even before the season started, we painted him as a third-line guy, and you give him a lot of power play time. And, he's scoring, but there are some struggles defensively. Yes. But anyway, it's just one of those things. Like, I know it's tough to, like, I'm calling out.
It's very important for you to try and recover what you think was a lost explanation, man. But I think we're going to be okay. Yeah, I don't know.
I just think it's a good conversation.
It's okay. It's hard to focus on that because we know that I don't think there's a Red Wings scenario where they're in that pool. Like they're.
No, I know.
No, not just acquiring one, but giving up one. I think that they kind of want to figure out how these guys work as
true.
cogs. They're not quite, bottom feeders. You know what I mean? Where they're giving away parts.
So we could start pulling up some of the slides that we didn't even get a chance to look at, which I feel bad because I told Max yesterday I had all these slides made and I was like, please read these over. We will go through each slide, and we opened up one and we talked about Olli Maatta. But I think that's good though. That means we had a good conversation. Now this is Mike. I wanted to call this out because this is every game after this is post Tuesday Vrana. Right? So you're looking at, for all the podcast listeners, the slide up right now is showing our deep, what do you always call them? Like, what's the word?
Oh, the deep cut analytics.
Yeah, the deep cut analytics. So anyways, the regulars here, Corsi, Fenwick, we have our goals for and expected goals for. And I also threw in the high danger chances because we are also getting lunched there. And looking at the shot percentage, not too great in the last, let's say, 2 out of 3 games. And then the save percentage, not
this
too
is
bad.
such
Like the
it's such a
PDO
bipolar experience, Like we had a couple close games before the 17th, where let me retract that statement. Like that was the Larkin stole the point against the Kings, and then the Blackhawks, they broke our hearts, right?
Right.
And then after that, it was just this erratic, like, here's a 5-1, we defeathered the Ducks, and then the next night we got absolutely annihilated, and then the next game absolutely annihilated, and then we tightened it up, and then we got absolutely annihilated. And so it's such a erratic experience going game to game, and I think it's really like exemplifies, one, how young this team is, two, that they do have a new coach and they're figuring out what he wants to do, and three, they do have a lot of boo-boos. So it's almost like we have to just tread water till we're healthy again, and then reassess where is this team ranked throughout the NHL, because this set of games is really hard to judge.
I just want to call out, Jim threw out there, your top line right wing, who is a free agent, is 2023 for 2023 is Pasta himself, David Pastrnak. Two reasons I actually want to call this out. One, how incredible would it be, Mike, for us to go, all right, Lucas, you fit in on the second line now because we arguably have one of the best goal scorers, offensive producers in the league who produced with and without Marchand either getting the assist or just helping other places on the offense to scramble up defense. But anyway, I mean, Pastrnak, just incredible. Like that, where Jim's coming from is like where I'm coming from. It's like when we have Pasta Man, if we had Pasta Man, that's where things, I feel like, start gelling. I don't know. I'm still coming back to this because now GLJ throws out there, one can dream. Jared throws out there, Jim, whatever you're drinking, I'd like some. And Dan B throws out there, luxury players are useful only as a final puzzle piece move to win the cup. Wings aren't close to that. Right. Dan, I agree with that. I think that's like half of the definition I was struggling to come to, only because I was trying to get a response from Max.
It's almost
in
like
regards
you're trying to
to
figure out, are we closer to acquiring one of those guys, or are we closer to being the team that outsources?
Yeah, that would have been a great way to put that question, because I'm kind of rethinking how I asked Max, and I was like, how many of those guys do we have on our team? And it's like, no, how many of those guys do we potentially have for other teams? Not necessarily how many guys do we have. Mike, how many luxury players do the Detroit Red Wings have right now to get us to the cup? Zero. They all have a purpose.
Every second is vital at this time. We need every hand on deck. Ketzel, our dude, I would pay almost anything for the Pasta Man. Boston would never trade him inside the division. Pasta, he's I would take a Herculean contract offer, which I don't know if Steve is really in the market to do, like a 8 years, 10 million, 11 million per, and potentially have him make more money than Larkin. So I don't know how that's going to work. So I'm not ready to put eggs in that basket.
If he hits the free agent market, if he hits the unrestricted free agent market, that guy's going to be going for top paid player in the league. No, somebody might tell me right now he does not deserve to be the top paid player in the league. Unfortunately, that's what you got to.
I'm not saying that we're as bad as Columbus, but I think it would be as shocking as like Goudreau. Because I don't know if that guy's really leaving Boston.
Fun to mention, too, I think Columbus is at the bottom of the conference right now. So I don't know if Johnny Hockey's regretting things.
I guess not. He's in paradise in beautiful Columbus, Ohio. He's doing great.
Ketzel says 12 by 8. I think we'd have to do 12 by 7 because the 8 years would come from... Isn't that the team that drafted and then it's free agents at that point switching teams? It's like 7 years.
Yeah,
or something.
I think we'd have to quibble on the years, but
confusing.
Yeah, it's going to take 11 or 12, especially with the cap going up. So I think Ketzel's on the money for that for sure.
Now, some of you guys might have heard me mention to Max, I threw out another question where it was like comparison to like some other teams right now, and what he could see that tells us we're closer to like these years, last year the Rangers so close to the Stanley Cup Finals, right? Are we close to that? We see this start for the New Jersey Devils where I think it was Jay Fresh that put out the chart comparing the goals for, goals against, and then expected goals for and expected goals against. And the Devils are in the top right-hand corner of the chart. They are by far like the best 5-on-5 team, and they have a great record right now. So it's like, are we closer to being that? Or what's really been fun to watch, honestly, as a hockey fan, and I've been kind of hoping for just more losses and more chaos because I think chaos is so much fun, is it the Vancouver Canucks? And of course, I think that would be the hockey gods punishing me because I'm having so much fun watching this that we would turn into the Canucks. It's not anything where I think Quinn Hughes is on his way back, is what I just saw. But it's what it's like Max put out himself his what he sees in Moritz Seider is a guy who's trying to do everything, but that could result in doing too much. Where I see a guy that was thinking too much. But either way, both of those can cause some problems, and you get injured, and then you're off the roster, and you can't help your team. Kind of like Quinn Hughes right now, where some people might argue he's taken quite a dip after his first season, first couple of seasons, and now it's not quite as for sure that you're looking at a Norris Trophy future winner. But like, just think about how close we would be, because JT Miller, Brock Besser, we were trying to, sign Pedersen, was it 2 summers ago? Mm-hmm. And it's just a roster that I don't quite
we
look at.
We weren't trying to sign him. We were fantasizing about signing him.
Oh, me and you were trying to sign him.
Yeah, we were fantasizing. That wasn't a Red Wing plan.
Yeah, I'm not saying Steve was.
Okay.
We were
just wanted to make sure.
We were trying to sign him. Me and Michael, the Red Wings Rant boys.
We were Wolverine laying on the bed with the little photo of your
right.
Yeah.
But that's not like a roster where I'm like looking at it and I'm just like, wow, that's embarrassing. I can't believe they're trotting that out there this year. And it's just been a disaster. And some people would say maybe they're trying to get rid of their coach, which I think is some of the stories. But whatever it is, like that, it's fun to watch, but it's also putting some fear in me because I'm kind of looking at it and it's like somebody made the comment like the Canucks have been rebuilding since the Sedins left. So you're talking like, what is that, almost 10? Is it 10 years? I think somebody put the number on it. I don't know off the top of my head the Canucks history. But anyway, they've been trying to rebuild this team, and it just hasn't really anything has really come together or gelled. And then they started 0-7 or something like that this season. So it's like we see things that are working out, but I also would have said I saw things that were working out for Vancouver. Like, I think people were picking them to at least sniff the playoffs, and last year they got close, and people were arguing if they had made a coaching change a couple weeks earlier, they would have been in the playoffs. So you have that conversation. That's a playoff team. They're in the playoff conversation. So it's like you get in the playoff conversation, and now you can't win for 7 games. So it's just, it's scary to me. But that's where it was like, what could we hang our hats on? That's like, no, this team's headed for the New Jersey, New York. Let's, 1 year it's just gonna it's all coming together. Or, gosh, darn, is that? I don't know. Is it just scary? Do we just have to accept that that's scary? This is one of the topics, again, I wanted to get Max's opinion on. So, Mike, you can lay it on me. I'm just letting you guys know some of the stuff we missed with Max, but hopefully we'll have him back.
No, between Vancouver and what was the other team, the Devils? Which one are you closer to?
Yeah, so I'm like Rangers, Devils, right? Devils have this hot start right now, and the Rangers last year, a year removed from drafting Lafreniere, are 1 game away from the Stanley Cup Finals last season. So...
Yeah, I think of those teams that you mentioned, the one they've had a lot of really good years where they drafted well. And so I'm gonna kind of chicken salad my way out of this answer. It's just that it just shows you the value of having superstars on your team. So a rebuild is going to take a lot longer if you don't have that one mega line up top. And maybe to bring this full circle, that's where for you, I know it might be a little bit scary because maybe you don't quite see twos as an A plus, alpha on the first line. But I mean, if this is going to be a team that it doesn't feel like you're floundering, that you're not Canucksing it up, it's going to mean that you have superstars, that you have guys night in, night out. And Larkin obviously is on pace to do it this year. Healthy, playing with good, line mates, on pace for, a point a night, over a point a night. And it's just tough because we haven't really been able to make that call yet on if we have a top line because we've had so many boo-boos in the past couple seasons. But I think that's really going to be the difference in the rebuild. And that's, I think, to use that word scary or terrifying, just in the vein of whether or not you're going to actually be like a year in, year out cup contender. It's whether or not you've drafted superstars. So I have a lot of faith in Yzerman, finding diamonds in the rough. But he has to have the opportunity to also get superstars on the team. So that's going to be what makes or breaks, a cup winner.
And there's a lot that's just going to be up in the air, and it's tough too. Like I guess if we asked Max about that, what we're asking him and what we're trying to do right now is just kind of project based on nothing, like nothing really. We basically have two case studies and they've gone in opposite directions, and we're like, which one are we gonna be? And it's like, well, we don't know. We have to let it play out. Yeah, but I don't wanna. So it's kind of the game I'm playing right now, but it's still something
and
that
the thing too with Max is we'd want him to like assess it based on this season. And this, I still feel like in the last, outside of like maybe the first couple games and we had everybody, I don't feel like we're giving a fair assessment of the team because we're still missing our guys who would make us like a playoff team. That's how good Vrana is. That's how good Bertuzzi is.
Now Jim says Canucks have had a history of not drafting well, but that's kind of the point I was coming to, where it's like, how do we say they're bad at drafting when I want Elias Pettersson on my team? I wouldn't mind Quinn Hughes on my team. I mean, right now, like I said, I've been listening to way too much Canadian hockey podcasting, but they're super excited. Quinn Hughes is coming back. Woo! Like that's huge for them. That's huge news. That's like front page news. Which is a whole nother conversation, by the way. But anyway, it's like, these are guys that if the trade was proposed and they came over to my team, I'd be like, yeah, gross. Like, I feel like they've had a pretty, decent run. I know like Brock Besser kind of fell off, but that's still a guy, like when I look at it, that was like a name like, ooh, I don't know. I might think about looking at the restricted free agent market. I might think about, if they're ready to move on, maybe there's something we could put together and see if we can make it work over here. So there's things I like with the guys that they've drafted. So I wouldn't say, like, in recent history that it's been that bad, in my opinion. I mean, we might just disagree there. So that's true. Ketzel throws out there, Devils have benefited massively from draft luck. Very true. Very,
like
very
lottery,
true.
yeah, lottery luck. Yeah. They've definitely done that.
What is it?
If this was Shakespearean, I feel like Ketzel has 3 telling points already. I like 3 things that he said today.
Now, Dan throws out there, maybe the problem is ownership being impatient and tinkering. I thought it was pretty funny that for Vancouver, this is me again listening to way too many Canadian podcasts, but wasn't the GM, I think it was like president of hockey operations, went into the locker room and told, like, the rumors that the players have been trying to lose to get their coach fired. And I guess president of hockey operations went in there and said, yeah, we're not getting rid of our coach. We're getting rid of you guys. So keep it up. Which I did think was funny, because then, like, the opinion of, like, Elliot Friedman was like, that might be what some of those guys want. They might want to get kicked off the team.
So win-win.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I just thought I did think that was funny. But to Dan B's point, you bring in the guys that are going to go into the locker room and do that kind of stuff. And this would be what, 2 straight seasons that they'd get rid of a coach mid-season. So yeah, it's definitely a team that tinkers too much. And Dan, like where I'm trying to figure out, how do we know we're not going in that direction compared to, maybe you don't even want to say going into like the New Jersey or New York direction, because that still kind of feels like it's coming out of nowhere. And of course, great goaltending gets New York very
Unfortunately, I
far
think
last
that you're
year.
right bringing those teams up because they've had luck, and we've had to make our own luck, which just means relying on Yzerman's brain on draft day. When I would also like to be able to have Lady Luck on our side so we can draft superstars.
And that there's a conversation too about what luck have we had. I think you and I have been, even though I've had some arguments at work, I think you and I have been pretty happy with what we've seen from Elmer Soderblom. Like remembering that this is his first taste of North American hockey and what he's been able to do. And I think a name like Albert Johansson getting his shot. Like, sure, Simon Edmondson, like we talked about with Max, should get a shot this year. I'm going to say this, and Max didn't say this, should be on the team next year. But you get a Soderblom, you get a Berggren, you get a Johansson to work out. That's our luck. But
that's our luck.
No, that's like that's our draft lottery luck. The thing that would be status quo, like would be like, well, that's opposed to saying that's our luck. The thing that would be saying, well, that's the NHL, would be these guys get short stints, they can't produce, and they go back down to Grand Rapids and have great careers. Like, I'm not saying I see that for Berggren, Soderblom, Edvinsson. I'm saying like, well, Edvinsson's not included in that. Albert Johansson. I'm not saying I see that in their futures. I'm just saying like statistically, that's all I'm speaking to, is that those guys drafted later on are not like it's just not what you should expect. It's just we watch them all the time. We see things that look great. We just saw Berggren turn in one of the best rookie seasons in Grand Rapids last year. Or would it be the best rookie season in Grand Rapids last year? So it's just, yeah, it's I don't know. I'm excited right now. I'm talking in all different directions, and I did have one thing I wanted to talk to you about, and I'm kind of happy we didn't have to talk about this with Max, because I think he already gave his opinion online, and I don't know. It seems like it's something that I have a hard opinion on, and maybe for Max you don't want to have too hard or negative of an opinion. And Max, if you're listening, I could be totally speaking out of turn, but maybe it's just better to not do what I'm about to do and bring up, oh my gosh. Yeah, the reverse retros. I was going to say, what the hell are those things called? Mike, we've been gone for a little bit. This happened. I think we've all seen this thing. Let me bring this up. Oh, for the love of Pete. All right. Well, for podcast listeners, you get to live in the world of the YouTubers right now, because I can't get a picture to come up right now. But we're all in the same boat. But we know what that thing looks like. Mike, Red Wings reverse retro.
Am I buying one? Absolutely not. I'm not going to say I'm one of those people who like it's an item that you can't change, that it's like a holy relic, that Red Wing jersey with the red and white. I'm okay with spicing it up a little bit. It's no secret that I'm a Piston fan, right? They're bringing back the teals, which not super pretty looking, but sometimes you got to ugly it up a little bit, and I it was part of my childhood. They're nostalgic. I'll get on board with those. I'll think about a Jalen Duren teal jersey, but did we have to pick Blackhawk colors? Did we have to go with throw in the black? So It's like the Red Wings are so good at hiring people who do like video packages or showcasing the original 6 jersey, but I don't think they put a lot of money into the creative department in updating the Red Wing jersey because they're like, no one's gonna buy this shit anyway. So we'll just throw some colors on there that make it look horrible, and what's the difference? Then we'll end up shipping them to South America or something, and they'll be $1. So there you go.
So
not enamored of them. Not enamored.
I think I might be taking the hotter take.
Oh boy,
like
Matt already ordered one and he's wearing it.
You said that the barber pole is not something that you hold in high regard, and like it's not something that's sacred.
No, I think that it's fine on the design. I guess I wouldn't have thrown black on there, not just because we hate the Blackhawks so much. There had to be another color.
So here's my take.
I think blue. We could have gone like we're already at Little Caesars Arena and we share an arena with the Pistons. Why can't we go red, white, and blue? Man, you talk like this whole episode. I'm taking a few minutes for this because this looks terrible. We look like the Chicago Bulls. We look like the Blackhawks. We don't look like anything resembling the Red Wings other than the word Detroit is on the sweater. This is terrible.
I'm going to jump on that. My take is I think the red and white barber pole jersey sucks ass. For anybody that looks at that and goes, oh, that's what jerseys should look like. You're kidding yourself. Those are just some white stripes or some red stripes, and it says Detroit in a font that I don't recognize. That jersey blows. So I don't care what they do with the barber pole. I'm sorry. I think a lot of people love the barber pole. I think it's nostalgia. I think it's anybody who forced themselves to watch Hocus Pocus 2. Yeah, that's where I'm coming. That's now I really got the hot takes coming. Like
let's really, get the people going. No, I just
Ketzel thrown out there. He doesn't like the barber pole either. Yeah. So we've got Mike. I think you're on board. So that's three of us.
Can I throw this out there? Ketzel, can I throw this out there, bud? Like, you can laugh at me if you want, but one of the things that the Utah Jazz did and the Colorado Avalanche did is they incorporated the terrain of Colorado into their jerseys, and it looked a little ridiculous, but it also really stood out, and it was so uniquely them and so weird. It was kind of like being part of the counterculture. No, I don't listen to your pop music. I'm gonna listen to some goth. Yeah, and then we had like a whole collective that liked that jersey, and I thought those really popped. So I don't know if we could have a swirling, whirling dervish of like Detroit locales, and it's kind of tilted or what have you. Maybe it's got the big fist. Maybe it's got slices of pizza dripping down or something. But
I should have brought this up earlier.
The Blackhawk sweater. Boo!
Yeah, Jared said this a while ago. Sorry, Jared. This was great timing too, and I missed it.
Yeah, I just don't know if we were trying to bring aboard my boy Patrick Kane. Maybe they thought this would be a smoother transition for him to agree to a trade. Chewy, right on board. Not a fan of the RR jersey. Yeah, sucks. Not a big fan.
Jim thrown out there, the original 6 jerseys shouldn't be tinkered with. I'll say this. The Red Wings jersey, I have that opinion on. Sometimes I really like what happens with like the New York Rangers jerseys, and I gotta tell you, I love those Canadiens jerseys that have like they switch it. They go, instead of red, we're having blue. I think those are really pretty. I like them a lot.
Well, I'll say like.
Oh no, Ketzel! Montreal blue is awful. Ketzel, get out of here, man. No, I'm kidding.
No, I mean like we've had like minor tweaks here, right? Where the Pistons have had red, white, and blue. And then they just subtly changed it and just modernized like the text a little bit, and it worked. And you could kind of compare it to the Bad Boys red, white, and blue, and I could say it's objectively an improvement. Like it's a little softer on the lettering there. So I don't think it's impossible. I think you can make subtle tweaks, but just thrown in black, not a fan. And then Jim throwing in there, boys, I'm from the old school. Jim, understandable. That's an opinion a lot of people have. You are definitely not alone on that. I think that a subtle tweak, if you think of like the Pistons, even the Lions trying to add like an eyeball to Bubbles, the lion. But Jim, I mean, just a counter argument, you could definitely go like Detroit Tigers, right? They haven't changed a goddamn thing. But even they will throw in like the Negro League jerseys, and those do pretty well.
Yeah, I
Like
like
if you
those.
go to games, people do like buying those.
Is that the Stars? I can't remember. I feel like I can see a star.
I'd have to look it up, but yeah,
Yeah.
I mean those jerseys do sell. I think they do well, and I don't think these are going to sell.
And Jim, to your point too, like I don't want to change it. I just sometimes I don't mind some of those changes. That's where some of this reverse retro stuff, it's not for me, right? Like I kind of want the hat. I see a lot of hat potential here, Mike. With the red and black Wolfpack Detroit Red Wings hat. I'm probably going to buy that. I will be honest, but I will not shell out $250. Which, by the way, Mike, I'm 2 for 2. Another jersey from Macari. Guys, I'm telling you, hit up. This is not a sponsor. Hit up Macari. I just got my second Red Wings jersey. This one was only $48. I'm going to be getting me a cider and a Soderblom because I'm just going to take it to like Fanatic U or Vintage Detroit and just have them put some numbers and letters on there. A lot cheaper than the $250 you have to pay for those for the prime green Adidas. But I'm telling you guys, I'm just go there. I know there are a couple of our
link or something because that sounds pretty cool.
Ketzel, $48? Yes, just got it for $48, dude. You can also like, and I know again this sounds like Mercari's one of our sponsors, but they'll like discount that stuff, the sellers, and then you could come in and be like, I want another 15% off, and just kind of see what happens. Because what they might come back and do is say, no, $48 is my final. Then you go, sweet, that's $200 off from the regular price. Yeah, Ketzel throws out there, my cider Adidas jersey was a pretty penny. And that gosh, I think I told you guys about my Lucas Raymond jerseys. Actually, it's the Fanatics one, so it's actually the shiny, glossy Red Wing wheel, which I hate.
Mr. Fancy Pants over there, huh?
No, it's not fancy at all. I hate it so much. I feel embarrassed when I wear it.
Never mind. Okay.
This is another direction I want to take this to. Jim says the only other Wings jersey I liked is the one they used in the outdoor games. Now I liked specifically the 2014. I think is one of the greatest hockey jerseys. I have one, but one of the greatest hockey jerseys I've ever seen.
Can I say I think what he's probably referencing is that classic sweater with the horizontal stripes on the kind of on the shoulder and then on the belly. But I kind of like the one with the. It's got a diagonal, and it's a hybrid of the like English D, and then it has like red and like kind of a Red Wing D to it. So let me know, Jim, if you meant the one with the horizontal on the shoulder and the belly, or did you like the one with the big slash with the D? Because I'd be curious. I really like the one with the D on it.
Let me see if I could share this real quick for all the viewers on YouTube. This right here.
I bet that's what he's talking about.
This is my
pretty
all-time
cool.
favorite.
It's pretty cool. I like that. I like the newer look one too.
Jim says the English style D. So is that which year was that?
If you look up Red Wings outdoor jerseys, you can find Zetterberg and Cronwall wearing them.
Let's give it a shot. See if I can spell outdoor jerseys correctly.
Yeah.
Was this it?
That's what I like. Let me know if you like that one too, Jim. I just thought the colors really popped on it.
I kind of don't like this one.
Is it close to be? Is it close to being the Ducks? Yeah, maybe. But it's kind of got the English D to it.
Dan says that uniform is top notch. Ketzel throws out there 2014 wing wheel is hot. Chewy, I didn't mind the English D or red cap with the D. Yes. I think Sam wants us to get back into hockey talk though.
What's
Sam, You're so silly. I'm just kidding. Carter leading NCAA in goals last time I checked.
Oh.
Dan B thrown out there too. Carter Mazer tearing it up at Denver University. Um,
Well, you got to do a lot, I mean, you can basically lead the minors in points like Berggren and still not make this squad. So I don't know what Carter's got to do.
well, I'll say this. And I can't remember his name right now, and it's just gonna take a second. But the guy who's projected to go like number 2 overall, not Michkov, but the guy playing for the University of Michigan, like he's getting that conversation. Like, yeah, 2nd overall, he's doing that well, and if that's the case for a guy doing that well in the NCAA, then why not get more excited about Carter? So I like at least the conversation because it's something too. I think we've been kind of negative on this episode. We need some positives. So yeah, absolutely. Like this is exciting for Carter. And funny enough, with all the Canadian podcasts I've been listening to, I have been hearing that, but my only problem is I haven't been seeing it. So that's what stinks. I've only heard about it. Now the other one, Jim Johnson thrown out there. Sounds like Casper and Wallander are doing great overseas. And I don't have a screenshot because I was kind of doing this willy-nilly. But Jordan Harris, he's at Jordan_NHL draft, has been doing some research on Marco Casper. Now, 10 points, 14 games. That's 3 goals and 7 assists. And I just wanted to read this off to you guys. This is deep. This is like a lot of notes from Jordan Harris here. So I'll just kind of see if we could find some of the high notes here, and just kind of tell you guys like I think we're on pace. Like you're talking about filling out this lineup and seeing if we can find a top line guy. And I know we're talking a center, so that means Dylan would get demoted. But even so, if it's a second line center and we can push Andrew Kopp down. Whatever the situation is, every time I see a highlight from Casper, it's good decision making. I mean, this guy is doing the things that I mean, it's sexy, like he's got smooth moves. I recommend Ice Hockey Gifts. You guys can check that out. Jordan Harris, Casper's line frequently starts the opening shift of each period, a sign that Coach Abbott wants Casper out there to set the tone for the period. I think that's huge. Averaging 16 minutes, 26 seconds time on ice, leading for forwards there. Corsi for percentage is 59.8%. Leads all forwards who have played 10 games or more. The next 2 highest Corsi for percentages belong to Casper's line mates. Now, expected goals for percentage at even strike 58.87. Huge! It's good for 24th. I'm sorry. Let me try and decipher this here. 24th out of 174 qualifying SHL forwards. Remember, we just drafted him. He's playing in the SHL, which we've always talked about with like Sider and Edmondson, was just to keep reminding everybody, this is a kid playing with grown men, and this is what he's turning out. So just the 59.8% Corsi for, I mean, the guy's getting the more attempts on net. He's getting the better chances on net, and it's the better chances like compared to the rest of the SHL. 24th in the league. Incredible. Goes on to say, in all situations, Casper's 10 points are tied for 3rd on the team. More impressive is that all but 1 are primary points. Can I say something? Let's take a pause here. Primary assists, I think Max touched on it. I'm glad that there's like a movement to like get more excited about secondary assists, or at least to not poo-poo the secondary assists. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm glad he brought that up because the one thing I wanted to tell Max, I thought this joke would get a pop, was just that like Maatta could be he's the embodiment of like an NHL player highlight being like Lord of the Rings, and how like with the whole marketing thing, how tough it is, because all ESPN wants to do is show you like the ring falling into the volcano. But it's like we've got 9 hours of movie, to get to that point, and it's like Maatta is those 9 hours. So he didn't actually throw the ring in the volcano, but he definitely helped, get the Ents in order and summon some moths, to turn into eagles. So he's a vital part of getting that ring into the mountain.
Another guy everybody wants to talk about too, Russian boy wonder, is how Ketzel put it. But it's Dmitry. I'm gonna give it a shot here. Bushilnikov. How do you guys like that one? He is 5'10", 163 pounds. Clearly not quite at the weight we want him to be at. He's 19 right now. Drafted second round, number 52 overall. If you guys don't remember, in 2022. And then EP just says speedy winger, ability to bounce off his line mates, flashy offense first player. Now in the KHL so far this season, 1 goal in 8 games. VHL, MHL, can I claim to know exactly how to rank those 2 leagues? I'm going to tell you guys I don't know. I am ignorant of what those 2 are. But 7 points in 6 games, and then we have 2 games played in the MHL, 4 goals and 4 assists. So I'm assuming that's got to be the easiest one, right? 8 points in 2 games in the MHL. Yeah, just another boy to get excited about if you guys aren't keeping track. I got to imagine playing in the KHL, these Russian contracts are, I don't know. It just seems to be really difficult to deal with, like reasons why like Michkov for the 2023 draft is like, yes, he will be the second best guy available. Do you draft him because you got to wait like 4 or 5 years before he's on your team? So yeah, I wanted to have that conversation with Max too, damn it. We're definitely gonna have to have Max on again. All right, but guys, we've been talking for a while. We do have to wrap up. This didn't feel like we were at an hour and 20 minutes, but we missed you guys last week, so I feel like we gave you a little extra content here. But everybody, thanks for tuning in. We will be watching with you guys tomorrow. Follow us on Twitter. I'm trying to keep up again with the Red Wings games and posting some highlights. Love the conversation we're all having on there. And yeah, I think ultimately, like, to sum up today, first of all, thank you again so much to Max Boltman for taking the time, because this is, like I mentioned, he's got his 9, I don't know, his 9 to 5. Is that what you call it when you're a writer? Because he's also working every game and working till like 2 a.m. to finish articles.
But it's it's like 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. when you get the articles out, so that they can be clicked on when people wake up at 8 a.m. So
where was I? Oh my God. So yeah, thanks Max. And then this was kind of negative to start, but I hoped that it was sort of therapeutic for us to kind of get some of that frustration out. And we'll see you guys next week. Oh, and we have the 2 fun games coming up, celebrating 97-98 Stanley Cup championship. Yeah. So
and if you're going, people cannot stop warning you enough. Like, be there early. Festivities will start at 6 p.m.
tweeted again, and then of course
I think Daniela put that out there too.
Yeah, we got to get Daniela on the show, honestly. She would be so much fun. I love Max. I shouldn't say that. Max is amazing. That was so much fun to have him on the show. Now I'm just like in hype mode. I want to get more people. But thanks for coming in, guys. If you guys want to hit that like button for us, subscribe, rate, and review on the on Ye Old podcast, wherever you guys are listening to us. Does us world of good. Yeah. And we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys next week.
On the flippity flip.
God damn. All right. You know what? I'm deleting this. Let's re-record. I'm going to call Max up.